I know you love that. Communication is lubrication.
Yes. My partner wants me to peg him, but I'm scared. What do I do?
I know it's hard not to feel guilty, and I can't just say like, don't feel guilty. Oh yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people who are struggling with confidence and sexual confidence.
Or think that they're like ugly.
Just because there's a lot more layers here of like, how did you get into a relationship where you felt like you had to take care of somebody?
We all have sex questions we want answered by a sex therapist. Well, today I have the best person for that, and she's my good friend. Hi, Nicoletta.
Hi.
Hi. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes. Well, firstly, I'm so glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So my name is Nicoletta Heidegge. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in sex therapy here in Los Angeles, and I also host a podcast called Sluts and Scholars, which Dr. Tara has been an awesome guest on.
Because I'm both. Slut and scholar.
That's right.
Okay, so the premise of today is asking you top 8 questions that my team got from people.
Nice. I'm sure they'll be relatable.
Before we get into the 8 questions, I want to like lube you up first, a little foreplay.
You know that's what we all need first.
Gotta warm up your body.
Mm-hmm. My body's ready. Ready to be ready.
I'm actually curious too, because I don't think I've ever asked you this, but like, what's your most like orgasmic sexual fantasy?
Oh, well, luckily because I'm in this field, I feel like I've gotten to do a lot of my sexual fantasies, which is great. But the one that I haven't been able to do because it's not really realistically possible is I want to be abducted by aliens and have some hot alien sex.
Wow. Any particular type of alien or?
Okay, so I'm not super into like the tentacle porn stuff. If you are, like, that's great. You do you. Wonderful.
Wait. Just back up. If my audience doesn't know what tentacle porn is, what is tentacle porn?
I'd like to think you can just guess from the title, but basically it is erotic content that includes an otherworldly beast that has many arms.
Octopus.
Sometimes it's an octopus, sometimes it's an alien, sometimes it's something else.
I see.
But it has many arms or tentacles that can touch and pleasure you in many different places.
I see.
But see, my fantasy is that there's this. It's aliens, it's ghosts, it's vampires, all these like fantastical beings, because there's something about being like chosen by this superhuman entity, and I'm like the one special girl on Earth that gets chosen by this otherworldly superhuman entity. And they just take me with them.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. Who would they take? You like witchy stuff, right?
Of course. Look at my outfit.
Look at my outfit. I'm literally the witch. Okay.
Yeah.
So, ready for the first question? You feel like
now I'm distracted thinking about aliens.
Okay. The first question is, my partner wants me to peg him, but I'm scared. What do I do?
Well, firstly, great. Love that your partner is willing to get it in their butt.
A lot of guys are into it now.
Well, it feels good, you know?
Yeah.
There's a beautiful prostate in there that can experience a lot of pleasure.
Yeah.
Normal to be nervous about it.
Right.
There are some really wonderful classes out there that I would recommend where you can literally learn everything step by step that you need to do for pegging. One of my favorite is Luna Matatas.
Okay.
She's got a great class about pegging that I would recommend.
And it's an online class?
Yeah, it's an online class. You could do it from the privacy of your own home. Exactly.
Okay.
So everything from like prep, how to feel relaxed, how to feel confident. But I promise you, once you put a strap-on on, you will know what power is. So I think you might start getting confident. But I would recommend, we learn how to do other things by taking classes, whether that be driving or cooking. So take a class on pegging. And Luna would be my top recommendation to get started with that. And I even have a podcast episode with her called Peg the Patriarchy that might be worth a listen. So check it out.
Do you have a particular like place that you get the strap on for pegging, or do you peg?
I peg.
Okay, you're like, bitch, I peg.
I love pegging.
Oh shit, okay. That was intense. I love your, like, you're so whimsical. Like, you can be so sweet and then you're like, I love pegging.
Well, that's what I was saying. I like to tell people that, like, when I first put a strap-on on, I feel like I understood misogyny because I was like, I could fucking do anything with this thing. I could swing it around. I want to pee on people. I want to put it places.
I love my fake dick.
A lot of power. Yeah, it's a real dick. I mean, that was...
It was
my
real to me.
Energetic cock.
Yes.
Attached to me.
I love that. So was there a particular type of strap-on that you really like? Or, and also, did you like start with finger first?
Oh yeah, don't go straight to
strap-on.
Big strap-on.
Yeah.
I would say before you even consider the pegging piece, you're gonna want to just like get acclimated with the area. So there's a lot of like slow breathing, a lot of relaxation, a lot of lube. I would even just like do massage around the anus. Like don't even go in. You want to make sure that butt is hungry.
I love giving a taint massage.
Yeah, so exactly, just start with the outside.
Yeah.
I recommend getting some nice black gloves, especially if you're someone who likes to have long nails. The butt does not love long nails. But yeah, nice gloves for a good cleanup. I think it's also important to remember that shit happens. So, you know,
Literally.
yeah, there's a lot of prep work that can go into it. So first step would be just like getting comfortable with the area, massaging the area, touching the area, breathing together. It's a slow process. And then depending on what you decide you want to do, every body likes something different. One of my colleagues suggested that the person who is pegging should pick out the harness because that's going to be on their body. They're going to want to see what's comfortable for them. So some people have it as part of these kind of like underwear, boxer briefs that you can put in. Other times it's leather. Other times it's, you know, a different material. So the person wearing it should pick that out. And then the person receiving the pleasure should be the one to pick out the thing that's going in them because they might be a little more aware for like, what does it feel like? How thick do they want it? How big do they want it?
Oh, a little collaboration. I love
exactly.
that. That's so fun. So as a sex therapist, do you see pegging becoming a little bit more common? I know it's still very much like on the fringes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was obviously something that people were doing, but now it's definitely being talked about more.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that they have been doing it forever. They just don't talk about it.
Well, I think more people are feeling open to it. I think more people with penises are being more open to like receiving anal play because they're hearing messages all over that it's like, it just feels good. So do it.
You know, since you said anal play, like I want to flip it a little bit. And I know a lot of women that are like, I hate anal.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like the more common response from women, or like do more women, like more than 50%, like anal?
I mean, I think for some people it's just like not their thing,
right?
Which is fine. It's not really my thing, and I've definitely like tried all the ways to do it in
many
a comfortable
different
way.
Anal ways, yeah.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, when they've tried it, they haven't done it properly. And I don't like to say, like, obviously there's lots of different ways to experience pleasure, but they may not have prepared their body in a way for it actually to be pleasurable. And so they may have rushed into it. It may have been painful. They didn't know how to really warm up and have it be like the most pleasurable thing possible.
The first time I tried anal,
horrible, probably.
We didn't use lube.
Oh.
It was terrible.
Big mistake.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Lots of tear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not good. Lube is you have
lube
to use
your
like
best friend.
half a bottle. Yeah. Just please lube me up.
Yes.
So okay, so my second question is, a lot of people experience premature ejaculation and they come really fast, either like you know, whether or not it's like a medical thing or just like excited or nervous, anxious. How should people cope from premature ejaculation?
So I first like to just rename it as like coming before you want to.
Yeah, I like that.
There's like premature.
PE is like so much stigma, right? Like you're a loser if you experience PE when it's like not a problem.
Yeah, and it's so infantilizing premature, like a you know, like you're. Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of shame attached to it.
Yeah.
So coming before you want to, because sometimes it's like very normal to come quickly, or sometimes your partner wants you to come quickly, and it's totally fine. And I think there's like a misnomer that people are lasting prematurely when in reality they're just comparing themselves to like a porn. So I've had clients who say they have, you know, coming before they want to issues, and I ask them how long, and they're like 15 minutes. And the actual DSM diagnosis is going to be like a minute or less.
Yeah.
And so
okay,
a lot of people use this word.
Can you tell everyone that again? Premature ejaculation, according to the DSM, is what?
That's going to be ejaculating with penetration within like 1 minute, 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay, so if you last 5 minutes, it's not PE, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, not in like a medical diagnosis type of way. Someone
like
obviously
societal stigma.
Yeah, someone may want to last longer or have issues with that, and that's fine. I think, there's lots one can do. But I think the issue here is that usually people feel frustrated with that because they might be coming before their partner is able to orgasm. And so my first thing there is like, does your partner know that you haven't come yet? Additionally, I think, we live in a culture that has this like baseball metaphor, right? Where it's like first base is kissing, second base is hand stuff, third base is, oral, like home run is penetration, and that's where it should end.
Right.
And so if you're basing ending sex on the fact that like your partner with a penis is orgasming, that's kind of this like old, in my mind, like patriarchal way of viewing sex. Sex does not have to end when the person with the penis comes.
Right.
In fact, I don't think it should be the ending.
Right.
And so there's a lot that should happen maybe before. And if you're someone who knows that maybe you come a little faster than you want to, make sure you're spending a lot of extra time doing other stuff with your partner. And if you're the partner who hasn't come yet, hopefully you're going to find a way to communicate that with your partner, which can be hard if you don't want to insult them. But like, I love you so much. I love when we connect. And you know what? It takes me a lot longer to orgasm just because our bodies are a little bit different. Can we focus on me a little more before, and then it's not going to matter how long we last for penetration, and I'm going to be so excited for you to come.
Yeah. You know what I love to say is like, oh my God, you came so fast. Was it because you were so horny for me?
Yeah, because I'm so hot.
Was it because you were so horny for my pussy?
Yeah, I never have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, no. I actually,
what a compliment.
I actually have talked to many women friends that are like, no, we think PE is hot. Because it's like, they're probably so horny for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I kind of think the same.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like if my sexual partner is getting nervous that he just came, I'm like, no, babe, like that's because you were so horny for my pussy and I love that.
Yeah.
And now finger me and eat me out.
Exactly.
Yes. Next.
Right. So it doesn't have to end there.
Next. Yeah, exactly. So the third question is, people feel like, they're like when they're in their teenage years, they're like derpy and like they're not sexual and sensual, right? And then they get into their 20s, they kind of just have like some sloppy sex. And then they get into their 30s and 40s, they feel like they are becoming more sexually confident, if you will. But then after that, it kind of declines. Like as you get older, like as you age, you become like, oh, like I don't feel sexual, I don't look sexual. So like, talk me through like throughout the years, like as a teenager, how can I feel more like sexually confident?
Yeah. So like how to stay confident in an ageless way.
Yes. Love that. Great summary.
Yeah. So I think that firstly, it's important to kind of like unpack the cultural stigma here, right? Like when we think of what is sexy, we think of like a young, able-bodied person. And so that's obviously not objectively true. That's just like a societally created thing. And so a lot of people have their best sex later in life. There's a great book by a researcher, Dr. Pepper Schwartz, called Prime, that you can read. Yeah, that talks about like how a lot of times people have the best sex of their life after 50 because they maybe can't get pregnant. They know what they like. They don't give a fuck anymore.
No, senior home people be fucking.
Yeah.
I had read an article that said there's like STIs that are like kind of go around in the senior homes.
Well, yeah, if you're not using barriers or didn't grow up with barriers and don't have to worry about getting pregnant, like a lot of people just don't give a fuck anymore. There's also a really amazing person named Joan Price, and calls herself like the advocate for ageless sexuality. And she's got some great books about sex and aging. One's called Naked at Our Age. And she talks a lot about that. It's a little more from a senior perspective. But I would say the first piece here is just like acknowledging that you deserve pleasure throughout the lifespan. And that's going to take
So if I'm like 17 and like awkward as hell. Like, I deserve pleasure.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
deserves pleasure. I mean, when we're really young, we figure out from an early age what feels good, and usually somebody shames us to not do that thing. And so pleasure to me is a really wonderful tool and like a necessity for survival. And so if you're allowing yourself pleasure and in pleasure in your body, that's great for your health.
Yes, that's so true. Because sometimes I think of like becoming more sexually confident or like expressing myself in a confident way
Yeah.
in bed or, sexually.
Yeah.
I think of like needing to have life experience first. Because I was an awkward, like, sexual teenager.
Yeah.
So now that I'm thinking, when like a young person asks me like, how can I be more like sexually confident? I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe it comes with age.
Yeah. I mean,
Like maybe
it's
you just
practice.
live in your,
Yeah.
maybe you just grow with it.
Yeah.
Like maybe just live authentically now. And if you're a little awkward, that's cool. Like that can be sexy.
Yeah, and if you're somebody under 18, there's some great resources. Like I really like the website Scarletine,
Scarletine.
because most young people don't have comprehensive sex ed, so
No.
they're not learning about pleasure. So you certainly don't have to be like derpy awkward teen. Like you can learn.
Like me.
Yeah, you can get resources to start practicing.
Yeah. I feel like
at
you
any
were
age.
not a derpy awkward teen.
I mean, I
You
guess
were
it
like-
depends who you ask. Like, I thought I wasn't, but everyone around me might have been like, like when I see teens now, I'm like, they think they're so cool, but like they don't fucking know anything. So I guess it depends who you ask.
I heard you had a wild like teenage years.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question has something to do with sexual debut. Do you still say losing your virginity or do you
No.
say sexual debut?
Sexual debut.
Right? It's so much better.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I lost it. I dropped it.
Lost my virginity. Like, it's
Yeah.
just so much better to be like, oh, my sexual debut was like this.
Yeah.
But the question is,
Yeah.
what if my sexual debut was bad? What do I do?
Then you're normal. I mean, I think it depends if it's your first sexual debut ever or if it's with just a new partner and you've had other kinds of sexual experiences. And so either way, I would remind you that like great sex takes work and you can learn to have great sex. And so don't expect it to be great at the beginning with a partner, especially if you are not great at communicating what you need. And so for me, I don't feel like I ever have quote unquote bad sex. And there's people that maybe I like don't align with who aren't maybe exactly my type. But if I know what I want and I'm able to name that and ask for it, I'm often going to have a good time because I'm advocating for what I need. And
Yeah,
so,
girl.
to me,
Sexual communication queen.
yeah, exactly. I know you love that. Communication is lubrication.
Yes. The first question is, my partner wants me to peg him, but I'm scared. What do I do?
Well, firstly, great. Love that your partner is willing to get it in their butt.
A lot of guys are into it now.
Well, it feels good,
Yeah.
There's a beautiful prostate in there
Yeah.
that can experience a lot of pleasure.
Yeah.
Normal to be nervous about it.
Right.
There are some really wonderful classes out there that I would recommend where you can literally learn everything step by step that you need to do for pegging. One of my favorite is Luna Matatas.
Okay.
She's got a great class about pegging that I would recommend.
And it's an online class.
Yeah, it's an online class. You could do
Like
it from the
how to
privacy of your
start
own home.
pegging.
Exactly.
Okay.
So everything from like prep, how to feel relaxed, how to feel confident. But I promise you, once you put a strap-on on, you will know what power is. So I think you might start getting confident. But I would recommend, we learn how to do other things by taking classes, whether that be driving or cooking. So take a class on pegging. And Luna would be my top recommendation to get started with that. And I even have a podcast episode with her called Peg the Patriarchy that might be worth a listen. So check it out.
Do you have a particular like place that you get the strap on for pegging, or do you peg?
I peg.
Okay, you're like, bitch, I peg.
I love pegging.
Oh shit!
Advocated for like what I wanted and what I needed. It was not painful.
Did you come?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, to me, amazing. I rarely hear that.
Really?
Most women's first time, they didn't come.
Well, that's probably because they were taught that you're supposed to orgasm just from penetration.
Right.
And so I already knew that I needed clitoral stimulation like
How
most
did you
people.
know that?
I was masturbating for a long time.
You're like, I'm gonna need this too.
Yeah. I was doing a lot of other stuff before penetration. So
Yeah.
I knew what I liked.
Have you had sex with women?
Yes.
Do you enjoy equally like men and women?
Yeah, I would say I'm like a little more straight leaning on the
Yeah.
spectrum of things. So like I enjoyed it. I appreciate it. I can appreciate a lot of people's bodies. But I do think that sometimes the ones that I've been with are a little like slower, which is like a bit more respectful for what my body needs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I remember like, so my first sexual debut was when I was fingered when I was in all girls Catholic school.
Yeah.
And that was exciting. Like that was like, oh my God, like I'm getting fingered.
Yeah.
And then I got fingered again when I was in Finland and like I got fingered by this French guy.
Yeah. Nice.
And an exchange student. And then my first like penetration with a man, it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
So to me, I kind of had this like feeling of like, oh, maybe I didn't like having sex with men. But then like romantically, I was interested and attracted to men.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn that way later that you can be like other sexual, but like hetero romantic.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can
You know?
like different people for your physical attraction than you do for your romantic or emotional attraction. It can be all over the board. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
the same for all the things.
Which is so cool.
So cool.
Because we've had so few boxes for so long.
Yeah.
Now that we can be whatever is really cool.
Yeah, this is the only box I like.
I love that for you. Okay, my fifth question is, I feel guilty about being too stressed to have sex with my partner. My life's very busy. I'm very stressed. What do I do?
Well, firstly, I feel you. Stress is definitely like a big inhibitor for a lot of
Yeah.
people. And so I know it's hard not to feel guilty, and I can't just say like, don't feel guilty, because if it were that easy,
like,
you
that's
wouldn't.
when people are like, just don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Just
honey.
relax.
Just relax. You know, we'll just don't
flip this
worry.
fucking
I'm like,
table
oh,
over.
okay. Let
Yeah.
me just stop worrying right now.
I
You
have never thought of that.
you idiot.
Yeah. So I guess for this, I would ask them like, how much do they want sex? And so what I mean by that is like, how much are they willing to prioritize doing things to help ease their stress, to be more open to the idea of getting turned on. And so something I really love for this is figuring out what your erotic blueprint is, which I think we've talked about before, but there's an educator named Miss Jaya. She's created this framework called erotic blueprints. If you can figure out what yours is, it's really helpful to know kind of like what some of the keys are to your pleasure. And so I find that for people who are what's called a sensual blueprint, they get in their head a lot. And so you may be someone who might not be like spontaneously ready for sex. You may need a lot of stuff to happen for you to even be open to the idea of receiving pleasure. And so the main thing there is your partner kind of needs to know what your
Yeah.
style is, so they give that time.
Okay, can you talk about the styles first?
Yeah, so the erotic blueprints, there's kinky, there's
Is that you?
that's part of mine.
Okay.
Again, you don't have to fit into a box.
Right.
There's kinky, there is sensual,
Sensual,
there's sexual, there is gosh, what is it?
Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter. I think there's one more the sexual. And so depending on kind of what yours is going to determine maybe what you need. And so for that sensual person who tends to get in their head, they may need a lot of like sensory stuff to be just right in order for their body to start to relax out of stress. And so to me, it's more a question of like, how much time and effort are you willing to put into your pleasure in order to create enough time to de-stress so that your body can be ready for pleasure.
Yeah.
So that's like, are you willing to put in the time to make sure like the space is right, and what kind of lighting do you like? And for your partner to know that it might take you maybe a few days to have this like erotic buildup, and that you're not just like ready automatically when you get home from work. So to me, this is about like a person taking ownership of their style so they can make time to actually like put effort into doing the things that they need
Yeah.
to be ready for pleasure.
Do you get aroused pretty easily?
So arousal is just the body's physical unconscious response to stimuli. Desire is separate than that. Desire is like, I want to do this thing. And so sometimes desire happens without arousal, and sometimes arousal happens without desire. So,
I like when arousal happens first.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, my body is doing something.
Right. That's why I like when my partner initiates by like trying to arouse me. Yeah. And then I'll have the desire to like, oh, let's fuck.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like that. A lot of people need the physical arousal to happen first before they're like, oh yeah, I remember that this is fun.
Right. Yeah. It unlike like some people that I talk to, they're like, okay, I'll be like driving home and I'll be like, ooh, I'm gonna fuck him when I get home. Right.
Yeah, that's not so much me.
No?
It is with new people. I would say when there's like the new hormones of a new person,
that attraction,
that's more likely. Yeah. Long-term relationship, not so much.
Yeah.
Then it's the other way that you're describing.
Yeah.
In
terms of like attraction, just off track a little bit, have you thought about or have people come to you about like, how can I be more attractive?
More attractive?
Yeah, like do people come to you for that?
Oh yeah, I mean
therapy?
I see a lot
like,
of people who are struggling with confidence and sexual confidence.
Or think that they're like ugly or, you know. So what would be your like first advice for that?
Oh, I mean that's definitely like a long process, you know, and we're dealing with a lot of, unfortunately combating a lot of cultural like and other things that we've learned. Yeah, and so I would say first kind of smallest thing, and it's hard, but first kind of smallest thing somebody could do is to pick a small little thing that they can do just for themselves at the beginning of the day before they do anything for anybody else. And to me, that's sort of sending signals to your brain to help kind of change your neural pathways that like you are in a body that is like deserving of time and pleasure and effort. So even if it's just like 30 seconds, I make myself tea before I do that. And maybe I say like a little affirmation.
Ooh, I love that.
Even if you don't believe it yet.
Yeah. I love that. Do something for yourself first in the morning.
Yeah.
You come first.
Exactly. You come first because it's saying, I deserve this. I'm someone who is deserving. And that's going to start to shift your confidence. But it takes repetition. It's not going to happen after one time.
That's a fabulous method.
So, I mean, easier said than done. That's like a whole long therapeutic thing I would do with folks, but that's like one thing you can start to practice.
Okay, so the next question is more towards like relationship therapy.
Okay.
Which I know you do too.
Yeah.
You know, in our culture, we like almost like glorify alcohol. Like, oh, let's go get drunk.
Well, and a lot of doctors say it too. They're like, you need to relax for sex, have a glass of wine.
Yeah. And if people get drunk, sometimes, you know, they're not in their right minds to like talk about their relationship or share about like certain things that they've been having a hard time with. So what should people do if like their partners get drunk and start like fighting with them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what kind of fighting. Hopefully it's not physical.
Right, let's say it's not physical. Yeah, let's say it's like just like
picking fights
verbally, like, why do you hate me?
Well, unfortunately, you know, when you're drinking, to me, that's not going to be the ideal time to have any type of relationship conversation.
So would you say de-escalate first is best?
Yeah, I would say remove yourself from the conversation. That doesn't mean that maybe what they're saying doesn't have some feeling or validity, but I might say something like, I care about you. I really want to hear what you have to say, but I'm not willing to have this conversation when we're not sober. So I'm going to remove myself.
So is drunk fight valid? Like concerns that are being shared?
I don't think it's going to get anywhere.
Right. Okay.
So like, yeah, there may be some valid things that come up, but to me, that's not going to be a productive, connected conversation because your body is not in a space to really like receive and process that information. So I would get out of that conversation and revisit it when you're sober. But you don't have to invalidate it. You can say like, I hear you're really upset. Like not just being like, oh, you're just drunk.
Right.
Because that's going to make them more
that's
upset.
Invalidating them. Sometimes like people gaslight you.
Yeah. So like, hey, I hear you. I hear that this is upsetting you. I want to work through this with you, but I'm not willing to do it while we're drunk.
Let's talk tomorrow.
Yeah. And if they keep going, I would physically remove myself from the situation.
Fair. That's really good advice.
Easier said than done though, right? Like I've definitely been drunk and like started shit with my partner because
Really?
Alcohol is a depressant. So
Yeah.
sometimes it does bring up things for people.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, it's going to be hard for you if you've been drinking too to be like, I'm going to remember this therapy podcast where someone told me to walk away from this relationship and be mature. Like that's something
Listen
ideally,
to Nicoletta.
yeah, something ideally before that you talk about with your partner.
Yeah.
And maybe all you can come up with is like a safe word. And then you can use that instead of trying to say this like nice, therapist thing that's easy for me to say while I'm sitting
Right.
here pretty much sober.
Yeah, well, a lot of things is like easier said than done, I'm sure, you know?
Yeah, totally. It
a
takes
lot of
practice.
relationship things, a lot of sex things, communication things.
Yeah.
But I think it does help. Like, let's say you're listening to this and you're like, ooh, I am someone that like my partner gets drunk often. Like, it's good to think about like, oh, okay, next time I'm just gonna like try to remove myself.
Yeah,
Like,
and I mean,
be a
look,
little bit
if
more
it's a
conscious.
repeat thing, like this may be something you need to have more talks about. And even if like there's an instance where this happens and it goes too far, ideally when you're sober, you can revisit it and be like, hey, I really didn't like how that conversation went. Can we repair it?
So, talking about relationships, my next question is for a lot of people, they become like the caretaker person in the relationship, and then they lose sexual attraction for their partner
Yeah.
because they're like taking care of them. What advice do you have for them?
I mean, unless you're somebody who gets turned on by the like daddy mommy role, which if you do, great. There's a
Talk
lot
more
of people.
about that. So, what's
There's a
the
lot of
daddy
people
role?
who would love you.
Yeah.
Someone who is a caretaker of some kind. There's many different kinds of daddies. Sometimes it's more kink and sex based. Sometimes it's more
Sugar daddy.
caretaker. Sometimes it's sugar daddy. So define what kind of daddy
Right.
you're looking for. But if you're not into being a daddy or a mommy for somebody, it can definitely feel not sexy when you're having to like mom your partner.
Yeah.
And if they don't like that either, that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
And so to me, that would be, I'm biased because I'm a sex therapist, but I would say go to sex therapy. Like, just because there's a lot more layers here of like, how did you get into a relationship where you felt like you had to take care of somebody? How often have you been the caretaker? What do you feel like is going on with your partner to where you're not trusting that they can take care of themselves? Like, there's a lot of layers here.
Why do some people have like caretaker tendency?
Well, I
Is
mean,
it
I'd
like
like
from
to-
their childhood or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I believe in the nature-nurture combination, so I do think it's a combination here. But I mean, I hope that all of us have a little bit of some caretaking tendencies, and that we like want to.
Of course,
care for each other.
others. But I think for some
Yeah.
people, they're like smothering their partner.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I often see that coming from a place where someone had a caregiver who they felt like they had to take care of them, physically, emotionally, or otherwise, and they learned that if they were not sort of people pleasing and caretaking, that it was dangerous for them. I don't mean just physically dangerous. I mean emotionally dangerous, or they wouldn't get what they needed or wanted, or their caregiver was explosive, and they weren't able to sort of track their emotions. So for me, this often happens when people grew up in an environment where they couldn't really trust that their caregiver was able to take care of themselves.
I see.
Yeah. So they learned that it was in their safest, best interest
Yeah.
to care more.
You know, I was in a relationship where my boyfriend was like a super caretaker. And at first, I loved it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, I'm a princess.
Yeah.
I do nothing. You know, he does everything. And it's like, and he was so kind and he was handsome. And at first, sex was like, okay. Like, you know, like we had like good sex.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't amazing. But then after dating for a while, because
Yeah.
he was consistently taking care of me,
Yeah.
it started to feel like I don't want him that much. What does that mean?
Yeah, I had someone on the podcast recently who talked about this. He has a book called The Evolved Masculine. His name's Destin Garrick. He's like a men's coach.
Okay.
And I think
The evolved
masculine.
Masculine. Okay.
Yeah, and to me, I think it's this sort of like needing this balance of masculine and feminine energies.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's this like a
Oh,
little bit of a misnomer.
caretaking is quite feminine.
I mean, I don't like to label it as
Right.
that, but I do think there's sort of this thing in our culture where we're like, either there's nice guys or there's assholes that you want to
Right,
fuck.
right, exactly.
And how
I never want to fuck assholes though. Did you?
Literal asshole?
I do like to fuck assholes like that. But no, like I've never been the kind of girl that was like, oh, he's so bad. Like I want to fuck him. Like no.
Oh, what's that
I've always-
like?
Were you attracted to that?
Oh, of course.
Totally. You're a
You say
California
that like
girl,
past
right?
tense.
You're,
Yeah.
you're like still. I still. You're a California girl, right?
I am.
Like okay.
San Fernando Valley, born and raised.
Okay. I feel like it's a lot. I feel like it's a white people thing.
Maybe you're not wrong.
No, like in Thailand, it's like, oh, he's such a good guy. He's from a good family. I want to fuck him. I feel like
Well, do you
that's
wanna
not
fuck him or
a
you
thing
wanna marry
here.
him?
Both,
Yeah.
but it's like not a thing here. I feel like here the narrative is like, oh, he's a bad boy. He wears
Well,
this
here
like
it's like the Madonna
leather
horror complex, right? There's the people you love and the people you fuck.
right.
And a lot of people
Interesting.
struggle to like
Yeah.
put those both together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, so back to like the caretaking part. Like, so why wasn't I sexually attracted to the person that was like so loving to me and so like such a good caretaker anymore?
I don't know, but how forward was he about like what he wanted?
Not forward.
Do you appreciate when somebody is assertive about what they want?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the answer. Thank you. Fuck, that was therapy.
I'll send you my invoice.
Yeah, yes, please do.
Well, and because I think I'm hearing that, like,
$5,000.
he was there for you, but then it was sort of like if you would say, well, what do you like? What do you want? He'd be like, I don't know.
Up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
it's
think a
just
lot
not
of
that
us like
attractive.
someone to maybe be in their power.
Have a position.
Yeah, like you can be nice and be in your power. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people who are really nice sometimes don't know how to be in their power at the same time.
Yeah. One of the like personality things is like agreeableness, right?
Uh-huh.
And I feel like there's like a good amount of that,
Yeah.
but then there's like too much of that.
Yeah. But
Where
sometimes
you
you
like-
want someone who's going to be like, wear this thing and I'm going to pick you up at 7 and I'm going to fuck you this way.
Yes. Yes.
Who's also sweet and kind and open to feedback.
Yes, yes. Who will also like, open the
Yeah.
door and like listen to me and have empathetic communication because like I feel like I can do both as well.
Yeah.
As a woman, there are times where I'm like, clap, 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 do this.
I have
like
seen-
I'm assertive.
I have seen more femme people have an easier time being both.
Yeah.
And I think this is like a cultural systemic issue of like how we
for
raise men.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
What about for people who are currently in a committed relationship, which like a lot of people, like millions of people, that are currently in a committed relationship, but wanting to explore sexually with others? And they're nervous, like, oh shit, I'm starting to look at other people, feeling like horny for other people. I want to try exploring having sex with other people.
Yeah.
What should they do?
Yeah, well, to me, this is a great one for sex therapy. There's also a lot of great books about this that help people kind of figure out how they want to open up and what they're actually looking for. So a few books for that. One's called Opening Up. One's called Open Deeply. One's called Ethical Slut. One's called Polysecure. There's a whole
Get all
lot
those
of them.
books.
But in terms of communicating it with your partner, ideally, hopefully you have a partner that you feel like you've been able to maybe share your desires with. If you haven't, that's where maybe some sex therapy could come into place, at least going individually to kind of figure that out. But I'm sort of a fan of the shit sandwich technique, which is like, say the nice thing, say the hard thing, the shit, and then say the nice thing. So I might say something along the lines of like, I love how much you care about my pleasure, and I feel so safe with you now that I can like tell you some things that I've been scared to tell anyone else because I trust that you'll support me. But I've really been having fantasies about like other people and other experiences, and I know
What if the first response is like, what the fuck?
They might be. But if it's something you want so badly, you may have to tolerate a little bit of a learning curve of your partner being a little triggered by that.
Yeah.
And ideally, maybe they'll step away and like digest it a little bit.
Yeah.
There's also a cool online course called Open Smarter.
Okay.
That people can take, but that's kind of like if both people are willing
Down
to
to
be
do
open.
it and like
Yeah.
want to know how to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, the only thing you can really do is express a little bit of your needs and desires. And if it's something that's that important to you, there's nice ways to say it. And if your partner's unwilling to receive it time and time again, you may need
have to break up.
You might have to if they're not willing to at least hear you out.
Yeah.
They might not be down for it, after some time, but ideally, for me at least, I want to be in a relationship where I can talk about my desires and how they change over time. And if my partner doesn't come around or isn't willing to do that, I would have a really hard time.
Really quick question. Do you accept clients outside of California?
So I do coaching with clients outside of California.
Yeah.
Coaching is different than therapy.
And is it Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom.
So for those of you that are not from Cali, you can still reach out to Nicoletta if you need this sex therapy and relationship therapy.
Yeah, I do retreats.
I feel like it's so helpful.
Coaching. Thank you.
Yeah. The last segment of my show is called 5 Quickies with Dr. Tara.
Oh, okay.
And
now
you're
I have
not
to be
new
less
to
long-winded.
this. You're not new to this. Number 1, senior gangbang.
Yes. I want to be doing that when I'm older.
Same. Number 2, foot jobs.
Great.
Number 3, questionable turn-ons.
Find a, ethical, consensual way to be creative and figure it out.
Number 4, pelvic pain.
Oh, sex should only hurt unless you want it to. So it shouldn't hurt unless you're into that. Go see a sexual medicine specialist. Go see a pelvic floor therapist. You deserve to not have pain during sex. It is very common.
Okay, last but not least, number 5, sex therapy.
Great. Hire us. Pay me.
Okay, well, thank you so much for hanging out with us and answering all these questions today.
It was a pleasure being back here. Thank you. I love chatting with you.
I know. You're such a good friend. Where can people find you?
So you can find me through my podcast. You might want to start with our episode together if you're a Dr. Tara fan. It's called Sluts and Scholars. You can find it at slutsandscholars.com. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram at Sluts and Scholars or Therapy with Nicoletta. And then you can find my website through there.
On your podcast, I talked about psychedelics, right?
Yeah.
Crazy conversation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Love ya.
My Love Bites fam, I hope you liked this episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Have an orgasmic day.
Thanks for listening. This was Love Bites.
Love Bites.
By Dr. Tara. Follow Dr. Tara on social media at lovebites.co. Have an orgasmic day.